All right. Just gonna probably burn it down. All right. I think you're good to go, Rebecca.
Okay, I didn't want to go unless you gave me the thumbs up.
Oh, yeah, no, thanks for your patience. It'll usually be quicker for us, but the Tucker room is.
That's okay. We have to attack sometimes. That's just the nature of the beast. So, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rebecca Jacobs, the chair of the Camden Conservation Commission, and it is September 28th, and we are going to start our sort of second official reintroduced or reenacted meeting. And first, besides saying who I am, I work for the Soil Water Conservation District as the program manager, and I live up on Mountain Street. So I'm both a resident and a natural resource professional. We have our town manager, so we're going to have Audra introduce herself and say hi to the rest of the committee.
Sure, I'm Audra Kaler. I'm the town manager. I just wanted to sit in and say hello to everyone, because I know they just recently started, and just thank you all for being willing to serve. It's, you know, very appreciated. You guys are doing important work, so thank you. And, you know, if you ever need me to come to meetings, if you have questions or if you have something that you want to run by me, just reach out. I'm more than happy to do that. Unfortunately, I can't stay for the entire meeting today, but you know, I just wanted to drop in to, you know, put faces to names. You know, Rebecca and I have spoken a few times over email, and
Yeah.
I'd never met her in person. So I wanted to get a chance to meet some of you that I haven't yet, or say hi to everyone else, and just offer that I can, you know, I can drop by in the future if that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. All right. So do you know everybody else here at the table? Or
Just a
Samantha?
reminder, I'm guessing it's gonna be a little bit hard to hear
Okay.
us, so if everybody can try to just enunciate as much as possible for everybody that's watching us on YouTube, and for many people.
All good. All good.
Audra, welcome back. This is Samantha. We met at the tree planting as well on Park Street. And I think you were going out on leave, and so I believe, I don't know if I'm remembering that
Yes.
correctly. But anyway, welcome back, and it's nice to see you.
didn't know where you were. Thanks, Samantha.
Hi, Dee.
All right, well, we just got started. We just had a little delay with technical hookups, and so we're back on track now. So Brian and Samantha are joining us via Zoom, and Audra just said hello, and to welcome the reinstitution of the Conservation Commission. So that's what you missed. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes that were sent? I apologize if it was too long, too short, too whatever. That is not my forte. So I did have a quick perusal. Thank you to Allison to do any updates or edits before I sent it out. But if there are no updates or additional comments that need to be made, I ask for approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve that minutes.
Second. Awesome. And everyone else in favor? Great. So moved.
All right, and just for formality's sake, for if it ever does really matter, it's typically what they do is they have everybody actually vote, like you make everybody raise their hand, and then the people that are, if somebody's on Zoom, I think in this case, we don't, Brian wasn't really participating on the last Zoom meeting because he couldn't because of the audio, but it's good to
He
have
tried,
everybody-
he really tried.
it's good to have everybody actually vote.
But so do I roll call the vote or?
If there are people, if it turns into a situation where there are people on Zoom that are voting, technically you are supposed to do a roll call.
no,
But not, for, for here, you can just have everybody raise their hand.
Okay. All right.
So the other vote, one thing I did notice is it kind of tasks me with getting an inventory of what's planted at the school. I think that was something I was gonna get help with, but that's something we can talk about this time.
Yeah, and an ongoing assignment.
And I believe Samantha has a relationship with the schools, so I think that was,
Well,
I don't want to speak for Samantha, but
I'm sorry, I didn't see, I don't have the minutes, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but I think if it was about the trees in front of the school district buildings and whether we could put some in, they actually put a bunch in already. And so was that what this was about?
This was just an inventory. Also, maybe it would be good, Samantha, if you want to introduce yourself, since we didn't, some of us know Samantha, but after we set the time for the standing meeting for the Conservation Commission, one of the things was to go back, and we have those 2 additional seats to fill and have another chance to touch base with everybody, but that time does work for Samantha. So I asked to have, that'll be hopefully on the agenda for next select board meeting to get her officially on the commission. So what's her last name? Samantha, do you maybe want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, I think I've met most of you. I'm a parent in the community first and foremost, really. I have a middle school and elementary school children here, and I used to be an attorney, but my focus now is on being a parent and protecting the world that they are growing up into. So that's why I'm here. And I love the town. I love knowing how it works. I think the GIS system's really cool. And I'm happy to contribute in whatever way I can.
Great. So this was just about logging the tree, taking the trees that the town or that the school had already planted, right? And trying to get them into our GIS system as
Got
as planted trees this year. So
Okay, I definitely didn't realize that I had agreed to do that, but I'm very happy to do that. I don't know that I even need to talk to the school about it, though. I just go
No,
app.
no,
Is
it's
it still, the app is still working the way it was this summer for adding trees? Okay. I don't know if I still have, like, if I'll need to log in again, because I haven't been in a while. So I don't know if the password's available, but maybe someone could email it to me or something, just so I can log in when I get over there. Please.
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
I was like, I don't know what the password is, and so I couldn't log into it.
And you gave me access, and I got this beautiful map of the Wicked and the river, and then I couldn't find anything to.
Oh, yeah, well, it's required, but that sounds like you did successfully log in then.
Yeah, but then what?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a whole.
Thank you.
I think we'll volunteer to go through we haven't done any kind of like use of the desktop application training. So, but all kinds of stuff on YouTube will.
yeah.
Not bad.
And it's all part of the larger street tree conversation
Exactly,
with that we can get to
further
later.
down. the list.
exactly, yeah.
So that sort of brings us to our general business. We had sort of self-selected, perhaps putting the cart before the horse, in which case we apologize for being proactive. That some terms, and knowing that we had 5 selected positions for the committee and that left 2 open positions, we felt that the 5 of us should at least volunteer ourselves for the 3 or 2 year positions, kind of keeping some momentum going. So and since our last meeting, Samantha has again figured out that she can meet with that day and time, and it is probable that the select board will put her in for a position. That's sort of what was discussed, or not and that there are some open positions that have been that people had put their name in for, and in addition, Brian, if you can come up and mention, I think it was Peter Lindquist, somebody had approached Brian. I got that correct. So I'll let you speak on behalf of that conversation and whether or not you directed him to the town to put in his name into the hat, so to speak, for the final open position.
Yeah, we don't probably need to like belabor that too much. He
Okay.
can put his application in. There were like one of the reasons there were so many applications to begin with of people that wanted to be on here, so we should take a look at all of those.
Yeah, there's a few that are gonna be in the select board's packet, so when they appoint Samantha, they'll make a, a decision on.
the 7%.
Yeah,
We could most likely, if the committee wanted to have a recommendation, that happens sometimes, but, it's tough because there are a bunch of really good people that wanna
Yeah,
do
no,
it.
I mean,
Peter can absolutely, if you wanted to quickly get that in, there was a deadline before, and the kind of what we were waiting on was just to let this core group start, define a meeting time, and then choose from that group that had
I
applied,
could actually.
who was, gonna actually be able to do it,
Okay,
but,
Yeah.
there's probably time for Peter to add in this.
just wanted to make sure he got his recognition and
Yeah.
followed up as such.
Yeah, just to fill in, he's aware of that he needs to go through the committee process, so I'm comfortable with it, leaving it to the select board to make those appointments and not putting our fingers on the scales ourselves. Just lucky to be part of the select group that they chose initially.
Yeah, I mean, and also just like continuing to emphasize that the meetings are very much open to everybody, and.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Look at how much influence Beatty has.
I hope
She's
that
not
I'll
on
be on the mailing list in the future, because I dropped off. I'm not getting, if there was anything.
Yeah, there was
Right.
a dropping, we're in the transition period to total control going over to Rebecca. And so for the initial part, it was, we were figuring everything out with a smaller group, so. Now we can work on Rebecca's expanding
Okay.
mailing list of people that want to be on the Conservation
I
Commission.
did a great tour of the building and explored the attic. I couldn't get out of the elevator, so I went down and walked. Because I was coming. from
I was
the
waiting for you, I couldn't find you.
Well, I didn't know.
Well,
Yeah, it's challenging to find the Tucker room.
Well, I know the Tucker room invited them. It's fine, not a subject. Very exciting.
All right. Yeah, so, the only list that I had been working from, or I would have attached to immediately would have been through the tree committee list, and I didn't know that that was necessarily an appropriate list to email out to everyone. Maybe it is, and then they know,
I
sort of like how to navigate, going forward, but it's easy to add to the list, and then anybody can reach out to me through the town. And say,
Yeah,
beyond.
that's a little, we don't have a perfect process for,
Yeah.
like Jeff Scott, who's the chair of the Pathways Committee, for instance, he's got like his regular list, and then he seems to personally maintain a list of like 50 people that are interested in the periphery. That's not necessarily anything that needs to be copied, but adding BD would be an easy thing at this point, and then BD's
I can
office
ask
one.
tree people if they're interested in knowing when they are, and it's regular, so they can
Yeah,
just come anyway. So
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a public meeting. It's just, again, maintaining how do we want to populate
They
that
don't
list.
want everything going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
The meetings aren't they going to be on this sort of set schedule? And so if you just tell people once that the meetings are going to be such and such date, and then it's on the front page of the town website, it's.
Theoretically, that's how it would.
Exactly, yeah, I mean, that's really what should be happening.
Okay,
Thanksgiving might be a
right,
challenge.
indeed, 1 month at a time. So, if that's it in terms of, the terms and the committee as it stands and as it's moving ahead, we'll move on to sort of the town departments, boards and committee updates. And first on the list, in no particular order, but lucky you, Allison, is the Board of Selectmen. Are there any updates that we should know about, or any things that we should be aware of from a conservation commission standpoint that are we should.
Yes, and I guess when we are select board,
Okay.
I figured that back in the next, sometimes still go with Board of Selectmen, but we're a select board. Just there's all kinds of things, of course, that I think relate directly to the Conservation Commission, that I would love to rattle on about. But, really just, I think, continuing to, what the Harbor Committee is doing and, familiarizing yourselves a little bit with the peer conversation, in terms of what's, allowed now, what, what the impact of those peers are. It's good if, if you can spend a little bit of time in the harbor, just, looking around, even if it's just looking at pictures and kind of thinking about like, what is this, what does this all mean? Where are they?
Are there key articles in the papers that we could?
I could definitely forward you
Yeah,
some stuff. Also, have you seen looking at a copy of the ordinance, of the moratorium ordinance? So we did extend the moratorium for another 180 days. The Harbor Committee will be making recommendations on updates to the ordinance. The justification for the ordinance or for the moratorium is in that ordinance moratorium language. And anything, it identifies multiple perceived threats to the to public space, to all kinds of things. And so we're supposed to stay within that. We're not allowing any more, we're not taking any more applications right now. We have had a couple people show up at the select board meetings with pending applications, with attorneys. It's always interesting when you have a select board workshop and you get there and it's like, oh, you've got 2 attorneys and a couple engineers. And so it's something that, people are using their resources to try to make sure they can build piers. But so getting up to speed a little bit on that for when it does come to the Conservation Commission would probably help everybody. But that I think is the only,
Allison, about that. Does this pertain at all to the lake? Like, do we have any problems at all with near?
no, but I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because one of the things that the Conservation Commission did 5 years ago was draft an ordinance prohibiting the use of unencapsulated polystyrene in floats. And so that's that blue foam that you see. I actually just wrote a little thing about it for the paper, and there have been some other things written, but that had a 5-year grace period. So no new floats were allowed to go in with that polystyrene, but now it's been 5 years. And so this in November is going to be for all of the lakes and all the waters in Camden. Those aren't allowed starting
Or safe, or salt,
what's that?
freshwater or salt.
Exactly, yeah. And so the town's been in a process of switching out all of our floats. But one of the things I plan to bring up at the select board meeting is sort of the need to, we've done a few rounds of education about that, but almost certainly people are going to be caught by surprise, as they always are. So it might be reasonable that the Conservation Commission might, at least try to be talking about it and reminding people and noticing what blue styrofoam is still out there. So
there could be a box in Camden Herald that listed topics, just a tiny box, Conservation Commission topics. If you want it to be that transparent.
oh, I want to be very transparent. I don't think that's the issue. But transparent, really?
Well, I was just thinking something really brief that nobody'd have to go into, but just topics discussed, Conservation Commission, like a tiny box.
I don't know what kind of distribution the Camden Herald really has,
I like that
these days, but sure.
That, like, it's-
Yeah, I know, people don't read papers, but you put it in anyway.
Two separate, is that the moratoriums for the harbor.
Right.
saltwater,
It's for the outer harbor and the coastal harbor, so those are defined regions of the harbor. The inner harbor is already pretty much covered. Other types of fracks to the inner harbor, but pier, no more private piers are allowed there. But yeah,
If I could jump in just for a sec. I believe, and Allison, you could clarify this, that Aaron Bailey is now both a town employee and as the inland harbor Randy's the inland harbor master. And if we could get the information, a reminder about the polystyrene from Randy to Aaron, then he could put it out in the MLA, McGonagall Lake Association information, because that's probably a good, maybe a preponderance of the number of polystyrene floats that we have out there, in the watershed, the Camden watersheds.
Would a sign at the boat landing or something like that be helpful?
Yes, I think it would be.
I mean, saying, hey, on this date, call this picture of it.
yeah, I think any number of things going around all of the floats. A lot of people that own floats, own property on the lake, don't use the boat landing so much.
Right.
But
I think, I do think the putting it in multiple locations is helpful for sure. But Brian, you're right, the Lake Association is gonna hit the largest number of the target audience.
And also Winkelhofer, whose name I can't remember, he's the one who hauls everybody's stuff out, and we use his parking lot for parking over at Bog Bridge. He's going to see everybody's float that, I don't think anybody else takes floats out other than him. I could be wrong, but we want to be sure he knows he can't put those floats back in next year.
Right.
yeah, he is aware of that, and I know he was making quite a bit of
Rumbling?
no, I actually didn't. I personally hadn't heard that. I haven't heard as much grumbling about this as I expected, but that just kind of makes me think that maybe the word hasn't 100% gotten out. But it might be good for somebody to touch base with Toby. But I'll bring this up at the select board meeting on Tuesday in my select board report, and make sure it's not something that the select board wants to personally take on all by themselves. I kind of doubt that. But yeah, that's just something we might want to have on our radar, because
It seems to me this is a perfect use of the inland harbor master that we're paying for.
I was gonna say.
absolutely.
Push it right down to Randy, and he'll be great.
I totally agree. Yeah,
Somebody should go to the dock and put a thing on the dock that says you have foam on your dock and you can use this.
right. That's what Randy should be. Yeah, I agree. A perfect thing to task Randy with. It's literally part of his job as inland harbor master and police chief, and so it's police ordinance.
He's inland harbor master and police chief.
Yeah, so this year we switched to, for years, the town had contracted with the Moratorium Watershed Association. They hired an executive director and then and lake warden, and then we would like appoint that person as lake warden, or sort of whoever they chose. We would give money to the Watershed Association, and then they would hire people to do this. With the retiring of Paul Leeper and Dale Doherty, for years they've talked about actually having our police department sort of expand and take some of those shifts as well, because really it is actually an enforcement position. So that's been going pretty well from what I understand. But yeah, agreed, Brian, that's something Randy should really, and maybe he already has a plan that he's implementing.
It's gonna take people like time to make adjustments on what they're gonna do with the old flow, what they're gonna do for new flow.
Oh, yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but literally, we've given them 5 years, and it's been, for a couple, it'll be new information, but for most people, it's not gonna be new information.
The 5 years has, so I've had a few personal experience with this. The 5 years has actually expired up. So if you're, and I've spoken with Toby, they're busy. they've done a lot of work in removing floats.
Mhm.
And so if you go around the lake, there have been a number of like families that own lakefront that have replaced their
Mhm.
floats and docks with other,
Mhm.
plastic and they're making them too. In addition to removing them. But back to Pamela's thing, the ordinance isn't restricting docks or floats in the lake. This is separate to that. I just want to make sure which Pamela's question.
Right, yeah, I mean, there has been a whole conversation about moorings in the lake and. We don't, at this point, have anything on the town, books that regulates the placement of moorings or docks and floats any more than what the state
Right,
does. All water bodies like that are great ponds, they're under state jurisdiction, the state has some rules about. Where they can be placed a little bit, but we haven't taken the step of creating an ordinance that would regulate
Right.
that.
other than the material that they're made of.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, in talking to, I think where we might start to hear things is that if someone has not removed their dock or float that has that blue foam, will they be fined?
Yes,
Because because the boat ramps that you would look on, you would take those out of the lake are both in Camden. And there's a lot of families, myself included, that have an old dock that's in Lincolnville. And Lincolnville has not adopted this ordinance. They're recommending you remove, but they're not enforcing you to remove this blue foam. And so I can pull that up on my property, or I can tow it to the boat ramp, but then do I get fined from Camden? And so that's, I think where we might start to see some conversation
Yeah.
around those families that are in Lincolnville and Cove that are also on Augusta Boat.
Mhm.
We have yet to remove those, but plan to. I've replaced my dock. I'm in a low part of the lake, so I only have a certain period of time that I can actually tow the old one out, and I missed it. And so I'm gonna be removing it past that 5 year. At the
but it's
boat
not gonna
launch.
need to go to Cloud Bridge after that, it shouldn't, right? Or they're gonna take it out there and then they're not gonna store that and use it again, or?
No, that's gonna go to the land, that's gonna go to the
Right.
land, but that's gonna go right to the dock. But I'm gonna be removing it out in Camden, or I might not, so there's, if I'm gonna get fined. So
Yeah, we
that's
don't
where
have
I
any
think, I
way.
know Lincolnville people will, they're not gonna get fined if you're gonna ask them to remove it.
I would think taking it out of the lake, because it would be for fun, so I'm trying to put that in.
I just think, I mean.
Well,
I
he's
think
right, that the
it's hard.
storage, they know that's not Camden property there across the street, that belongs to.
Well, I know, but you're thinking.
But using Cloud Bridge, it's an agreement that we have with them. It is better to take them all out in one spot environmentally. But that's a good point, and
So it's an important conversation,
I doubt we would.
it's separate.
Finding, it's a different thing because it's not in the water, but. I mean, you're right, that's a gray area.
And it's not that we wouldn't do it, they just, we're not, well, yeah, actually, the homeowner would pay the fine because they missed that 5 year, So that they're.
I think it keeps in November, so I don't think we're at the 5 year
Oh,
yet.
I thought it was oh, it's
It was
this.
voted on in November of 2017.
Hopefully they don't drag the ones out of Camden just into Lincoln.
Exactly.
Well, I don't think so. People want their float, they want like pretty, but there are some, but if you go around the lake. And definitely, I'd say after the east and west dam, you go into the river section, there are some there that need to be. That are still there, but it's been, fortunately not, the lake's actually been pretty good, but a lot of them, they've been taken out, and they haven't been replaced, they've been taken. Totally busy. So.
Yeah, it's
It's
going.
been a really good thing by the fire conservation commission.
I agree.
So it's good, we could to continue that.
And then we should probably organize some cleanups of all the foam that is.
Yes,
There.
you'll see it. I mean, I can see on my property, it's horrible. I mean, there's little pools of it,
Everywhere.
and it just breaks off in the tiniest little pieces. It's really horrible. So it's good that it's getting out.
Yeah,
Right, and the landfill doesn't just, you can't just throw it in the transfer station. In the landfill either, that's the only thing, it has to be separated from the dock and then thrown away separately.
Yeah.
Because you can't put it in the landfill for the same reason.
Okay,
just blows around everywhere.
right.
Um,
Fortunately, I think the town still maintains the separate dumpster that's past the trash dumpsters that's just for blue foam. That's where I've been putting stuff that I've picked up off the lake for the last 5 or 6 years. They seem happy to accept it.
mhm.
Yeah, Dave's thrilled to accept. He's been like,
I'll tell you, pound for pound, it's an expensive item to throw away, because if you think about it, it takes up a lot of space.
Right.
And it doesn't weigh anything. It's all trucking.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty complicated issue.
Is
Well, I
it,
think
it may,
we're-
sorry,
Go
it's,
ahead,
maybe it's something that the transfer station wants to think about charging for, just like you do for white goods. If I want to bring my fridge there, you're going to charge me 10
Right on the
bucks.
money, Brian. Correct.
What's that?
window. You're correct.
Yeah, it just seems like there's probably going to be more of that disposal coming up now, after docks get pulled, but I don't know.
Don't charge enough that people don't take it to the transfer station, because there will be people who, if you're gonna charge it, will say, I'm just gonna keep it in my yard.
The bigger issue is taking it out of the dock.
Yeah.
Because people aren't gonna want to do that piece of it.
Yeah,
That's the hard part.
right.
All right, well,
Have a whole meeting just.
right, I think we probably should put this temporarily to bed. It does sound like there's an opportunity for somebody here, like, I probably will take the initiative to reach out to Randy to see if there's any, like an education or a piece that, could be put together. It might even be just as applicable, whether it came from the Concom or was endorsed by, but could come from the Soil Water Conservation District. It might even be printed from DEP or IFWDM, or any of those may already have something at the ready, but we can look at a way, because there'll be this kind of uptick of, it'll be a fresh experience to have to deal with it in this coming season. So if he wants the thing to hand out when he's, so to to explain, maybe that's
Right, he can do the enforcement and provides the kind of like, this is why it matters.
exactly. So,
It is timely, because if you're taking your dock, I think, pretty soon.
so I see that as the action item for us, and that's obviously.
Yeah.
Great, thanks Rebecca for doing that. You have Randy's contact information?
I don't, but
Our gagging at camdenmaine.gov.
GAGNE.
Yes, yeah. And if you try that, and if you have any trouble, I'll give you a second number.
Okay, we'll start then. Okay, anything else? I'll circle back and do my sort of update report, what it is on the harbor committee after we wade through some of this other stuff, just to keep a logical sequential order. Is there anything else in terms of?
That's it for me.
All right.
Are we going through each of those departments and things? I'm sorry, the audio isn't
Yes.
perfect, so.
Yeah, we're trying to just see if there's anything that we need to be made aware of or, advised on or updates on, work that we've already been kind of involved with, like the street tree planting, which I.
You want any new old topics like PFAS, which I've been talking to.
Oh, I don't want to get,
Everywhere.
I don't want to get into the PFAS conversation and, not because it's not important, but
No.
because it's really
And-
highly complex. What I can say very quickly to that is that I have, colleagues working really hard in the state level, and they are putting, they're racing into this.
I just went through my files and it was,
Yeah, and I can send you a very good understanding the PFAS, that piece of information that was put together so that everybody's speaking the same language.
in the Camden Herald, I guess you looked it up for Marina.
Oh, we could go on and on about this. This would be a great future. I actually love talking about this. But it'd be maybe a great future. If we could maintain a list of like possible future agenda items.
Yeah, because I think this one's. gonna
Oh,
take-
yeah, I mean, you're just gonna go on and on about the wastewater treatment plant.
My new calling.
What?
So that's my new calling.
Oh, yeah, we got the landfill, it's all in the water, and come from the landfill, it's,
I don't have to be a professional in
it's, yeah.
that. Understand.
We went to a conference the other day, but anyway, yeah. And there is no parks and,
Is that, okay, that's, it was on my list of things and I was like, well, I'll just add it here and see what sticks.
I can sort of speak to the things that formerly used to be within the Parks and Rec that are happening, if that's appropriate, just I can give a super synopsis. One is, a more active season, if you will, in some respects, is starting to happen out at the Snow Bowl. Chairlift rides every Sunday from 10 to 2. For the first 3 Sundays, there will be an associated volunteer opportunity for trail maintenance. This is to help cut down brush and eye pokey things in the glades and things like that. It would not be focused on the bike trails. They're maintained separately, but more on the skiing terrain, which is trails and glades. In addition to that, there'll be the ski patrol is doing a wood-fired pizza fundraiser those afternoons, every Sunday afternoon when the chairlift rides occur, from 10 to October 2nd through October 30th, I believe is the last one. And on Columbus Day weekend, they're both Saturday and Sunday. You mentioned the polystyrene floats, which are an important thing. One of the areas that Parks and Rec had identified that I think ties in really with conservation is Barrett's Cove. The things getting dragged in and dragged out and just the state of sort of some of the conditions there. Huge parking lot that drains right into the river, et cetera. So I think just as on our radar, that's probably from a water quality standpoint and so forth, that is not insignificant. And Rebecca, you might have, other thoughts. I mean, I don't know how much sewage is leaking in from people's camps or whatever, but we had identified that as a significant issue. And I know Dave could probably speak to what's happening with other trails on the mountain. I know you would walk that with Beth recently, and whether or not there's any changes or things affecting drainage or, mitigation, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Thanks. You're up next.
Okay. So tree plantings so far, total count right now, and I kind of put a quick list together. I gave the hard copy to Dee.
You want me to pull it up on the thing?
Yeah, you can. If you want, it's basically 41 trees with the locations is what we have planted so far. I have 6 more trees in the storage area. Actually, I have 7. I think one is not one I gotta return to the nursery. So really close to the 50. I don't think we're gonna have a problem accomplishing it.
What do you have left for species?
I have like 1 maple and the rest are underwired trees, so they're
Perfect for Will's house.
Yeah, I need an underwire.
you want to come over and you can pick. I have 2 columnar cherry trees, and I have an appleberry. Service appleberry, is that sound right?
Amelanchier lavis or Amelanchier canadensis.
I have 3 of
Are they in the
those.
same place where the other ones were? In town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I have 1 maple. And I have one canopy tree, which is a hard locust. So that's what I have left. I don't know what you meant by the tree survey. Street tree
Well,
survey.
it's the.
Updating the map.
Updating the map.
So I updated most of the app. I think I have a couple trees to put in there. Sometimes what happens is I don't have wireless reception. So I can't, so I have to pick a photo and I have to get it to a place where I can access the internet, and then I have to update it after.
That will be solved by your new cell phone service though now.
Hopefully.
You're
Hopefully.
you're on the phone, you was on the phone before, you couldn't.
Yeah, I was handicapped from my other phone. So hopefully we'll get that squared away. So we got like I said, about 9 more trees to plant, and we've got it. We've got the 50. I have 2 that I'm pretty sure aren't gonna make it in front of the smoothie shack. We're gonna try and make those 2 spots a little bigger, I think. And plant 2 new trees there, but I think we really, I'm not gonna say we've accomplished the goal, but we're really close to it now. We have 9 trees left and 6 on the end. So one of the things I did want to mention was that I was looking at I was looking at the minutes. We talked about the tulip poplar and I think the sugar maple, alternating those. Looking at. I thought it hooted. I was like, the sugar maple is not a good street tree in terms of salt tolerance. So I think we ought to re-examine, and what I was thinking is, I'm not gonna try,
This is for
the
Hannaford.
Hannaford, yeah, so the Hannaford side and across the street on the Esplanade side with the sidewalk there's an opportunity to put a lot of trees in right there. I think we really ought to look at that a little bit more carefully. Let the whole project simmer down and let DOT go away. And then order the trees for next year and then put them in early spring. That's really what I'm thinking makes more sense.
Yeah.
And it'll give us a chance to kind of really look at how we want to put those, to order the specific trees we really want in that location. I think that deserves a little bit more research and
Cornell, as well as like,
I read the Cornell.
yeah, and then
recommendation.
in New York, cities, you know, they're, which the department, if it's parts of this, parts of this or that, but they've just done a lot of updating over the years on their street trees and
Right.
successes and failures and
Right,
that, you know, again, thinking climate adaptive,
Right.
trying to think a little bit in the mid-Atlantic to northeast
right.
natives. If we can get natives, that would be great. If we can get something that's at least a cultivar or something, you know, a little hardier, that's again, a consideration.
I think-
But what we want is
Something that will live.
successful.
Yeah, something that will live
Lots of
first, and then
trees.
something that maybe is, you know,
Yeah.
from the area would be good second. But maybe we could do like a field trip one day and go, all right, here, and once we narrow up the trees we really want, kind of visualize what that's gonna look like with the trees that we're thinking. I mean, you're really good. You guys are all good at this, so I think we ought to take an active role in really planning that out, because that's gonna be like the entrance to Camden,
Right.
if you're coming from the south. Yeah. So we really ought to give it a little bit more thought, I think.
Can I say something about salt? I came here from Middle West, really concerned about salt. And I've been watching ever since. And because our trees are all on the edge of people's lawns, I'm not seeing a lot of salt damage over all these years.
It's because certain areas are worse than others. Route 1 is worse, because that's,
Oh, that would be terrible.
yeah, that's a bad spot for salt.
But in our street
I agree.
trees, it's not a big deal. Now, maple are gonna suffer with climate change, but
Mhm.
maybe the salt's not that important otherwise on our streets. Except we've got a lot of them already, but they really,
So the secondary roads, the roads that are off the major arteries, you know, like 52 is a major. artery.
they're salty.
Those ones are salty, so the ones that are on the side streets are they're not so bad.
No.
Those we can,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
don't have to worry so much about it, I don't think, but I hate to put something that's susceptible to salt on Route 1.
Fair.
So that's what I have to say about that part of the tree planting, so I think saving that for next year. And then, I'm gonna shoot for trying to get the rest of these trees in before the end of the season and. Along with the inventory that the school has done, and then I'll get the list from Janice on what the garden group is planning. I think we're gonna have a big list of trees that we planted this year. I bet the school looks like they planted at least 20, 30 trees.
So depending when the meeting ends, I'll either go do that after this meeting or tomorrow morning first thing.
Okay, let me send you the.
I just sent it to her.
I have it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, you can take a photo of the tree and everything, Samantha.
Oh, I'll do that.
Yeah,
Do you want me to?
Yeah, so you want to put the location, the species, and then take a photo if you can.
Got it. Will do.
Put those probably under planted trees,
Yeah.
right? Not rather than existing trees.
Thanks, Samantha.
They are,
Oh,
they will,
want-
planted trees will eventually be existing trees, but we're keeping them separate for right now.
So the new school trees you want me to put as planted trees?
Yeah, the new app. the
Okay.
new Invoker app, I think I sent you.
Yeah, but she can also add an existing tree in that.
Right, that's what we had, that's what I had been doing, is adding existing trees as we went around the neighborhood. So this is different, but
Yes.
okay, planted trees, that will do.
Yeah, there should be there's like a new layer since probably the last time you.
Great. So it'll be year, species, and a photo.
Can we talk about that for 5 more minutes? So it implies, I think, a good amount of understanding. I didn't mean to sign you up for that. I mentioned your name because of your relationship with the school and the school board, with the work you've done there. I was
Yeah.
thinking also that we could receive maybe through, people you are in communication with, a list of what trees they planted from them, so that we're not guessing, oh, they planted this year, oh, they planted, could they tell us like, hey, we planted 20 trees, or these? Or is that something that we just want, because what I'd love to see is that when we do input it into the app, we know exactly, okay, it was planted what year, so 2022, and what species it was. So I'd love to go back to the existing and also have like an 8 look back and say, okay, we have out of, these are 0 to 10 years of age, these are, 11 to 20 years of age, these
Yeah.
are 21, and all the way up to, I just did it, on Norway Maple, 180 years old in the park.
Wow.
And so, how many trees do we have in Camden that are 200 years plus?
Yeah.
And so I love that, I know that we're starting, we have an opportunity, I think, to start with that level of detail. And so rather than us kind of walking the street and guessing, I'm hoping that someone at the school and some of the garden club can give us specifically, because we know what trees we planted, you planted them.
Mhm.
But if we can have some confidence to say, oh, school planted this year, or maybe school on all the property, I don't say that detail. Oh,
Well,
we
they
planted
do, I
this.
mean, it was a planning board approved
Okay.
project where at the time it said, what they were gonna be planting,
Right.
whether or not they stuck to that and.
So I can pop in and ask if they have a list. A couple questions arise from that. One, we're only concerning ourselves on this inventory with street trees, right? So not like the ones in the middle school parking lot that are close to the playground. Like those aren't anywhere near the street. Or do you want, because we're not generally trying to inventory all trees in Camden, it's just street trees, right?
Well,
I think that public parking
public,
lots
yeah.
and public, like.
Okay.
We don't want things that people planted in their own backyards for their own use, but I think public shade trees, public trees
Yeah.
is. I know for the Tree City USA report that, I will have to write this year, that Nancy's been doing for all those years, that would have, counted for that. I mean, there are trees in the public right of way and, so I think the playground trees and the parking lot trees are fine.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're saying only public, there's a lot of parking lots that need shade. But they're private, but it's used by the public. We might someday want to put them in.
Oh, I agree.
Encouraging them would be great.
Yeah.
So instead, I don't want to give you, but if you happen to be talking to the school board, maybe start there. I'm very comfortable with the app, so I can put in, I'm happy to actually put, unless you want to put them in, you're happy to.
How about I just go by there this afternoon or tomorrow morning? And I'll talk to the person in the front desk of the superintendent's office. They actually, the superintendent I was dealing with is on a leave of absence, or sabbatical. So I've communicated with the temporary superintendent, but I don't know him as well. But I can pop into the office and ask about it. It may be fairly simple to just walk around and plug them in GIS. So it's not that large. I mean, I'm happy to just wander around and take pictures of trees and add them in the app that way as well. And I don't think they have any like super crazy species that are going to be hard to figure out that they planted, like, exotic trees. So I think we'll be able to figure out what they are, even if it's but I will try for the link first.
Well, the new iPhone, actually, Rebecca told me that when you take a photo, just a photo, no app, it actually will
Yeah, if you. the
Oh,
little
nice.
icon, And it has, if it has the little, it looks like a little firework, a little sparkle on it. If you tap that on your iPhone, it will pop up, a potential ID.
Oh, cool. I use an
some
app for that.
baseball
I use an
knowledge
app
and-
anyway, but yeah, that's
But it's
cool.
good, well, it's good, quick and good cross.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
One more thing, Samantha, I hope I didn't confuse you with what to put in the app, but just follow the app sequence, just walk your way down from the top to the
Yep.
bottom. On the
Okay,
drop downs. There's a couple more things it asks for, like street address and.
got it. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, that was all, so I'm done.
You're done. Awesome. Thank you. It's important work. It's good. It's exciting to be 3/4 of the way there, I guess, a little more than.
Oh, this is the,
We're in the home stretch.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is-
That's awesome. So I don't know if there's anything pertinent in terms of planning and zoning. Again, this is maybe leading more towards select board, and just say, was there anything of pertinence or, relevance that we should know about? And
The
then,
planning board hasn't been meeting,
No.
that much lately, but,
That's-
yeah, there's all kinds
I mean,
of, a future agenda could discuss, identifying resource protection overlays and, maybe some of that would come out of the, Conservation Commission, annual meeting of Conservation Commissions or something that we could bring back to apply here, but.
so tree updates, we have Will and BD here, so, well.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say for on zoning, which is not, which I think it's awesome to put this together, Rebecca, with all these sort of things about from a comprehensive perspective, is we did talk about, and I almost just want to keep it on a minute, but I thought it was very impactful, was our zoning for shoreland is over major bodies of water, not so much of the important arteries. And whether it be spring fed or whether it be just a smaller stream or brook. And so it might be at some point, and I'm happy to be involved. I don't see anyone else who would like, or do a subcommittee of it. To maybe provide suggestions or just thought around how we may be able to update zoning to include shoreline zoning or police protections for those bodies of water or wetland that we deem as conservation specific and important, so that we don't see development happen or negative impacts happen. So we preserve those spaces, and maybe that dovetails with the stormwater research too, is to see kind of where stormwater, not that it's natural where it's on that, so I think that might be something that I at least want to document.
Yeah, I actually started the file. I pulled the town of Kennebec, or Kennebunk, for and York's overlays for shoreline protection. So I think it's something that we need to do a little homework and research to see what's going on, and then dovetail it again with the stormwater, and to think about making sure that when we present something to the select board, that it's as thoughtful and comprehensive as possible. And we'll have the opportunity to meet with Jeremy and meet with others that would make sense. We're still sort of new, so diving right into
Right.
an overlay map and additional zoning, I think we want to make sure that we kind of get a grip on all the pieces and parts and the players before we add too many moving.
One thing, there is that I should have mentioned during that, my portion of updates is that the select board did appoint, a McGonagall River Advisory Committee. And, as part of we received a $1.6 million grant for coastal resilience and, watershed, planning for the McGonagall River. And one of the things there, in addition to looking at many different design possibilities for the dam sites, one of the things that grant does is there are a couple tributaries of McGonagall that are identified as needing further investigation. And so that could be, it might be that at least one person from the Conservation Commission should make a point of trying to watch those meetings. FB Environmental is the consultant that we hired to work with the Citizens Committee. They have tons of experience with working with citizen groups and like watershed level planning. So that's one of the main reasons why we chose them. And there's likely to be a lot of dovetailing of some of the things. Not everything is in the Gunner watershed, of course, but a lot of it is. So those meetings are on YouTube, but it wouldn't hurt to.
I have a question, I think a question. Are all lawns still grandfathered? Is there a sunset or on lakes and on streams with no buffer?
Yeah, unfortunately, they are allowed to just stay like that.
Forever.
Yeah, we have all of these protections in terms of like keeping people from cutting down trees, but we don't have anything about,
You need a
right, like you have to develop a
Shrubbery.
buffer within blah, blah, blah. or-
I don't know, maybe that would be something.
It's more of like a state issue, but at this, we can always be more restrictive in town, but yeah, unfortunately, that's definitely a relevant issue with no obvious solution at this moment.
Okay, sorry, and then the tree update, and Dave spoke a lot to it, and BD is here, who's really spearheading the community, the volunteers, which I would say you are the lead. Well, plant tree volunteer.
Piper,
So BD's been holding a tree committee meeting, which she's been emailing out, and it's usually in the village green, and it's every Tuesday, is it Tuesday?
Yeah, it's kind of imaginary, but I think we'll stick to it. Only Pamela can't come, so maybe I'll change it.
Yeah. But it's always it's there. When is it again? Just so people.
It's second Tuesday, 10 o'clock,
Right.
and supposedly Janice says we can use the French room if it's raining, but Sif was there last time. So, but it wasn't raining. So.
And they're great turnout of people who are engaged. Brian, who came last, Brian Lightbody, who came last time, who was very
I'm
eager to
sorry, I'm
help.
not hearing you very well. It's,
Last time Brian Lightbody came,
yeah, right.
and he's very eager to help in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. he's-
But it's, it's been a great platform, I think, for people to,
Do you think I should keep it then, even though we can't have her?
I think. Well, no, I mean, we should change it, but I think we should change it so that it's a time where people can meet.
Yeah, I'll give it a try now.
But I think it's great to have it open for people to,
Yeah. No, I figure I'll be there, and I was thinking, well, I don't really have an agenda, I'm kind of sick of agendas. But maybe we could go on a sample soliciting trip and.
Speaking of that, you Martin made this little note on the bottom of my list to, the lady that I talked to, she doesn't want them now.
Oh, where was that?
So you have to go back, and I had her convinced, and then I left, and then Rick went back, and she said, no, I changed my mind again, I don't want it.
Oh, that'll happen, so,
6 Cross Street,
oh, shoot,
yeah.
really.
I wondered
My
about that.
boys are tree cutters, and they said, what are you doing? You don't want no trees here.
So they can come.
I had her convinced.
Second cross.
Yeah, she really wanted it. when I
Yeah,
talked.
the lady in the back, right? When you go into that apartment. It's like a 2.
Well, she owns the.
She owns the building, yeah,
Yeah, well, something, I noticed they had it in front, and I thought,
yes,
I don't know about that. I'll talk to her again.
all right.
I figure that, and when you get a new person, when someone first moves in, then they often want trees. So,
You gotta work your magic over there.
yeah. Well, that's interesting. She was very enthusiastic.
I know.
darn sheds.
I'm glad you tried. Thank you.
I convinced my neighbors on Oak Street, to put in the 2 honey locusts instead of just the one that they were thinking they'd rather have.
Do we do it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they're on Oak Street.
We're all out of honey locusts.
Yeah.
was that right next to the 2 maples we pulled?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I had I had to barter with that guy. It was-
Yeah.
You heard,
Driveway culvert.
yeah.
Yeah.
I said, I'll fix your culvert, you're gonna have to take 2 trees. I did some arm twisting.
He's really good.
Oh, yeah, it did, but.
It's called the art of negotiation. Compromise.
It worked for everybody.
Win-win situation, you set up a win-win scenario.
Yeah.
So the HWA is hemlock-woolly adelgid, that's me. So hemlock-woolly adelgid is widely prevalent, as I think at this point, most of us know. It came to my attention like early summer that some new, what was potential new sites or a more widespread infestation. So I went out with BD and a few others and environmentalists there, a few other
The other one.
and a few others, and I documented the infestation, contacted Maine Forest Service. What I had documented was in fact new on their map, and initiated a revisit to Camden. And they, particularly to the natural areas, I mean, not because they're dismissive of what's happening in town, they're not, that's another part of the conversation, but so they went up and they found certainly enough infestation, but enough to prompt the first biological control release in the mid-coast, or this far down into the mid-coast. So it will be happening, when I say imminently, because they're beetles, they're bugs. They will be released and shipped, and I will announce within 24 to 72 hours. That's as good as it gets, folks. They're live specimens.
Are they gonna like put them in different locations?
They are releasing them at Camden Hills State Park. And so with the, they do move, they're insectitude, but they want to reduce the population in the natural areas first, and they'll monitor. But there is another beetle that which a biological beetle, which feed exclusively on HWA, by the way, so that there's that concern. And then widely studied and it feed exclusively on that pest. So there's another beetle that they are hoping to do a test plot on a residential area. So I have a couple of areas with willing landowners, and that they will net the whole, the mature trees that will release, that will do population counts, and we'll see if it makes sense to potentially offer this out to more urban or smaller residential environment situations. So
One of the
I'll
natural
keep you-
areas is along the Riverwalk. That's has a lot, and that could be pretty bad, because, you have all the trees that are kind of along the edge of the
yeah,
river.
that's like right at the bottom of my house, basically.
Okay, so I didn't know. if
So,
you did
yeah,
that.
no, yeah, there's probably numerous other spots that we'd like to, but we gotta start somewhere, and it's, it's all highly controlled, as you know, and so but it's exciting to know that they're gonna attempt to at least rein in the infestation here. So I've got everybody on the conscom is already on the list, and the tree people are on the list. So you'll get the announcement if you can show up for the release. There'll be education, there'll be photos, you'll be able to see.
I thought you were
Really
just saying
glad.
after the fact, you're gonna tell us, but there's not opportunity to be there for the release.
100% opportunity. I will give you 24 to 72 hours notice.
But it's how successful are they? How long does it take for them do they have to like start establishing themselves and populating?
Excellent communicator and prepare information on these, and I am not a forest scientist.
Okay, I'm just curious how that works.
I will immediately defer to my colleagues at the Maine Forest Service.
They'll probably tell us over there, probably.
So Colleen Tierling is the Maine Forest Service entomologist who is in charge of this project, and she will be able to answer any and all beetle and HWA related questions. So yes, but so that's happening. So I think it's important that the Conservation Commission knows, and I will give you the announcement, and if you can show up, great, and if you can't, well, we tried. So,
Hopefully 100 years from now, they're not sitting around this table going, oh, people had everything,
Oh,
the
crazy.
beetle and killed everything.
no, that's gonna happen. I know, there's a great.
I'm get rid of the beetle.
So with that, I'll move into the harbor committee, that I have waited about halfway through the waited. Unintended, through the harbor committee, documentation. It's obviously very heavy on, piers and human structures and very light thus far on anything actual water body and shoreline related to date. So I'd like about halfway through it, so you can correct me, but I've also got about halfway through the 2-hour meeting that happened the day after I pulled it up thinking that I was going to attend the meeting, and I was a day late and apparently $1 short. So so I've watched the conversation about the moratorium and the process, and as such, I don't have any names and face associations because I can only see the tops of people's heads on the video, the way the camera was positioned.
Oh,
So I really have no idea literally who anyone is except for Joshua Moore, because he's leading the meeting. So I reached out to him. We had a couple of email volleys. We have an agreement to physically meet in person so that we can, we've got the name face association, and I can share a little bit better. Jeremy was at that meeting. He did help them get up to speed. There's a lot of sort of questions as to what a conservation commission was and what purpose they served, and they all kind of got on the same page with Jeremy's help, most part. So I will just let them know that we're here to educate, advocate, and support. Their feeling, at least with regard to the moratorium during that conversation, having not met with me or anyone, was that they would like to go through the process alone as an isolated committee and then put out for comment. I am going to try to advocate that we might, I can show up at the meeting, that's my public right, so there's that approach. But I would like to at least advocate that, that we might be collaborators on the process and the project, and that, that perhaps working in isolation isn't necessarily always the best approach, but we'll tread lightly and we'll go forth accordingly. And I think it's important that we at least meet, and he better understands how conservation commissions can assist and serve. And but there's a definite misunderstanding of that conservation commissions were somehow literally tied to the land, and they weren't necessarily having any impact or role with the water. So that's a misconception that I need to help squash.
Conservation means trees in Maine.
Is that the perception that you think
Always
is?
used to mean traditionally conservation is trees.
So,
And we've sort of been stuck there, not that trees aren't really important.
as someone who literally works for a soil and water conservation district and has been a long time natural resource and landscape professional working, I mean, I literally just worked for a week in Aroostook County, pulling the polystyrene off the shoreline and planting a buffer on an unbelievably pristine water body. And so I am like intimately familiar with all sort of angles and facets, in this. And so I will again, we'll first make acquaintance, then we'll make,
You're right, there's a wall in people's minds.
yeah, that's
in
fine.
some people's
This
minds,
isn't,
yeah.
no, there was some great conversation. There were some people who spoke up and said, well, we had, Will Gartley speak up about the piers. Why wouldn't the Conservation Commission speak up about? There were people that were definitely, but I just think there's going to be an opportunity to help them better understand what conservation commissions do and how we can help guide positively, and that there is a broad array of professional experience and a lot of, I think what we bring that DMR and DEP and all of these other professionals who are important don't bring is place attachment.
Exactly.
We have place attachment and a skill set and level of professionalism that comes to the table that will amplify the work here in town, so.
That's a great summary. Generally, a lot of the time, the sort of the environmental piece of the conversation, when looking at, approval for these types of structures, it kind of begins and ends with, a far off regulatory agency that is looking at, minimum standards and some database somewhere that says, is there waiting for a habitat here or no? Is there this or is there that? And we miss the part of which, any one of those, DEP, DMR, they would all encourage local gathering of knowledge. But we often miss that part of saying, no, I've seen that people or birds or whomever uses that part of the shoreline like, like this, or that the community has expressed an interest in conserving Sherman's Cove and, erosion control of front yards is not the only, concern. So I think that'll be good.
Yeah, I think this is, I think this particular, this moratorium and this committee and, is an interesting way to sort of bridge, but, I think it's important to also help that committee and others at large that we're about conservation. It's not about preservation specifically. Conservation conserves the essence, right? It's not about this wall looks exactly like this and it can only and always look exactly like this. Like we're dealing with biology and systems and complexities. So we're saying it's about conservation of water quality and soil quality and in perpetuity. It's not about a fixed state that the harbor will only look and like this. It's that the functionality and the quality of the harbor will retain now or improve upon and be better than, before. So just making sure it's right. Yeah, I just want to make sure that like we help help them and ourselves put forth that information, because I think there's some also these perceptions or misconceptions that, that we're about a stopgap, you've worked in real estate. We all own homes or rent homes, we probably maybe own a couple of properties. Like we're not against building or adapting or changing but it's about being mindful about best management practices and so on and so forth. So hopefully, with this meeting and we're working with these other committees and partners within town, that they realize that we're here to just sort of add another layer, because the soil and the water and the trees and the space is unique and it's, through that conservation, right?
Yeah.
Is how we're going to have what we feel is Camden in the future.
Actually, one right now, there's a really sort of unprecedented opportunity opportunity that doesn't often happen to see what it looks like when one of these piers goes in. Because there's one being installed right now at near two town access points. Right in between Marine Ave and Harbor Road, which are two public access points that are actually now marked for the first time ever. So right in adjacent to Harbor Road.
Rickson Pier,
What's that?
is it the Rickson Pier that they were
Yes.
referring to?
Yeah,
I'm getting up to speed.
so that one's going in, it's gonna be 100 feet or something like that, and you can see the process, and I won't say anything more than that, but, the two ways to get to it, actually wrote in the paper this week about the two access points, so Marine Ave is more, able to, it's more like improved, there's actually, you drive down to the end of there are steps, you can walk down. And then if you go to the right, you can see that, and then Harbor Road is another access point, which is basically completely unimproved. You'll see a marker there and there's a path that you can walk down and then kind of a makeshift bridge that was made by one of the residents there. There's some Adirondack chairs. It's not like ADA accessible or any of this, kind of use at your own risk, but that's a really good spot because the property is adjacent to that. So, cool. Anyway.
Would that be considered, the special permit code, would that be considered inner harbor?
That's the outer harbor.
That's considered outer harbor.
Yeah, insurance code does have some special rules. There's basically a line going across it between Marine Ave and Sherman's Point Road. And on one side of that line, moorings and various types of structures are allowed if they go through, like this pier was right basically kind of on the edge of that. So it's allowed if it goes through this process where the harbor committee and the planning board and select board determine that it's not a substantial impact on existing moorings, it's all about what's a substantial impact and what's not. So this one was approved based on, it meeting the criteria of not, interfering with navigation. But it's really all in how you define that. Does it interfere with navigation of ferries that would arrive to Camden? No. Does it interfere with kayakers? It depends on who you ask. Does it, so anyway, it's all about kind of what we value and what. But I think having the harbor committee, just has some basic things that they're accustomed to looking at, just like we have basic things that we're accustomed to looking at. And so it can, definitely help to add another layer of, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Sounds
Big
like,
project. Looks like a full new build.
oh yeah, they took the house down, tore down the house and building in the ocean. That's how it.
But you don't have to see it from the water and that. The moorings there. It's front row seat.
No, I won't. I've said.
You're good. So Brian, I sort of, I guess I logically assigned you, maybe if you will, this, if there's anything in terms of energy and sustainability, we should be brought up to speed or think about. And if not, that's okay. We have other things on the agenda as well.
Yeah, so just quickly, the Energy and Sustainability Committee hasn't met in the last couple years because of, being sort of shut down, but just from a kind of a statewide energy picture and how it affects things, there's, really significant movement on the federal level with the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA Act. So monies are coming down as tax credits starting in 2023 that are greatly expanded, and then also income-based grants to do efficiency work. And so it's everything from the kind of thing that my company does, which is insulation and air sealing, to solar, to battery backups, electric cars, et cetera. So it's a very rich and fertile field for people taking personal action to reduce climate impacts that obviously affects, what we're trying to do here in terms of, as you so eloquently put, that broad definition of conservation. It's getting things to work really well, humans, and non-human parts of the ecology. So that's just kind of the exciting news along that way, in a nutshell.
Perfect, yes, and then again, we can just remind people at the meeting about these, that these rebates and other grants and other things are part of the conversation and proceed from there. Yes.
Something related, but far-fetched in my mind. I ran into Rockport Conservation Commission person who gave me all her, and I also have contacts before anyway about Rockport Conservation Commission, and whether we would want to just know what they're working on. One piece. Another piece is Nancy Harmon Jenkins wrote to some of us saying, we should have a climate conference with local towns, so I'm just throwing both those things out.
The county would be such a lovely organizer of some of these things. Actually, there's a position available on the Knox County Budget Committee, which has a great deal of power over the county budget, and,
We nominate Will.
oh, yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah, and he's gonna get to take out papers, but that's like one of those things, it's not a big not a very big commitment time wise, but when it matters, it really matters, and, it's the reason why we haven't had money for like a countywide planner, for years and years, actually. Yeah,
Just a quick comment about the Knox County Budget Committee. I don't even have, I'm sorry, I missed whatever we were just talking about, the broader topic, but I literally just was reading out of curiosity about Peter Lindquist, and he has served on a budget committee for the town before, and he also was talking in his platform about cooperating more with Knox County. So if he does indeed become a member of the committee, it seems like he might be an excellent person for that role. I just, anyway.
yeah. Will would be really great too, or you.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I don't even, I'm sorry, I had to answer a call. Are we on storm management or something different?
Just gonna move
Well,
into
BD,
that.
well, BD,
Okay.
BD mentioned, I mean, it's really interesting, BD, the Rockport Conservation Commission contact, I think that would be, very beneficial to have continuity between, some continuity
Yeah,
between us and
I
Rockport.
got, she gave me a page of notes. And what I should do is make myself get back to her. And then I also previously was talking to their chair, but I don't really know her.
Is that still Kim Kimball?
Is that the person that was at the native plant sale, BD? Because I talked to her for a good amount too. She was running the children's activity.
Lynn Rudder.
That's who I talked to, yeah.
Yeah.
Lynn Rudder.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I thought I'd say, well, give me a list of what you're working on or something like that.
Okay, can I add to that? So we're talking about Route 1 and the Hannaford trees.
Yeah.
They need just as many trees on their end of town.
Yeah,
And we really, and I'm a Rockport resident, so, I mean, that would be really, if we could like, maybe get our group, to talk with their group, commit to putting in some trees when we do ours next year.
Yeah.
And we can do it together, and we can make it like a good story, like we work together to do something instead of.
Yeah.
Building the bridge.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of something we could be
That
right
would be
now.
helpful, yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of good places. to be.
Oh, that's like a no-brainer, that
Oh, yeah.
we could all do that together, it's boom, boom, can do a nice row, and it would look great.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna look silly.
Yeah.
If we start
Right.
right at Camden and then Rockport's like has no trees,
but
What
yeah,
do you think?
borders look like that.
Do you think that the woman you spoke to would be offered to a? What do you think the best way to communicate with her would be?
I don't know, this is like a feeler to find out.
Right,
It's email, I know her very
Okay.
well.
Oh.
We'll.
I don't have to do it.
And I think that we can, I mean, the first thing to do is just, look at some of their meeting minutes and
Yeah.
what they've been up to and
Okay.
what's on their agenda, and if there, if there are ways to, where there are, easy ways to collaborate, to,
That's an easy one,
that's super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's like,
Yeah.
the hardest part is gonna be getting them to pop up. The money to put, but it's not gonna be that much, it's not.
There are grants for that, there's.
Well, that's my point, is that we can work through that issue, but I think this is a good like project.
No tree grants for Camden.
Yeah.
Project Canopy.
Oh,
It's
gotcha.
like easier just to try to put them in the budget and things, but Rockport.
Rockport doesn't have a.
It would be easier to start a GoFundMe, actually, and just like,
Yeah,
but anyone else.
There, it is, I mean, Rockport's very different, and there's 5 hamlets, and they're rural, except for the harbor village.
Oh, yeah.
whatever you call it.
Very planned.
And so the idea of street trees, but they did start a nursery at Erickson Fields, and Marina tried to insert Camden into that several years ago, and then Erickson Fields kind of crumped out because they thought it wasn't working out. They weren't helping with the trees, so it's just work for Erickson Fields.
That's my best friend over there.
So there's a little mess in there about
Really
nursery. And anyway.
Maybe we can do a do-over.
But it's not, the whole tree program, the street tree planting program in Camden started as a joint thing with Rockport, and I wrote a whole thing about this. It was in 1950. And a couple different times there was like, they're gonna plant 100 trees between the two towns. The Chamber of Commerce fundraised for it. It was, I'll send that to you, because it was like this big Camden Rockport thing that they did.
Well,
So
and
I think they got trees in
Mark
Rockport too,
Wood
for the most
did
part.
trees
Trees.
along the way on Pesnack Street, partly in Rockport and Overmere Farm. And there has been some collaboration, but as far as I know, they haven't gone on with a steady program at all.
Another opportunity for the street trees with the conversation, so.
And Rockwood supposedly has a program, and I haven't really.
Yeah, Rockland's got a better street tree
Well,
program.
they got a lot of streets to.
Right, Rockport doesn't
No.
have anything, so it's planting trees.
They're really rural, so it.
They're all into cutting trees, not planting trees.
Yeah, do you see what just happened in Simon Corner? That's like down there. I don't know. I heard it was they took some out for visibility in the Simon Corner. I don't know. It's just gossip at this point.
All right, so moving on to storm drain mapping, maybe not survey, I guess isn't the correct, but the mapping. Are there any updates? We got some rain in the last few weeks here,
Yeah.
finally, did you?
This is an unfulfilled commitment to
Plus,
go out and to do develop a subcommittee. I know Will was gonna be part of that. We're gonna go out and do the basic training of how to do this on the app, just like we did with the trees, and the long and short of it is that it hasn't happened yet, but maybe Will, if I could task you with just bugging me about it a bunch, and then we could invite we'll develop a couple of days, and then we'll send out something inviting others to be a part of it. I think this would be a good thing to let it broaden outside of the conservation commission.
Yeah, I agree, I think you're gonna say the same person.
Yeah, Brian Lightbody really wants to do it.
That's
And he and Will had a conversation.
Yeah, Brian's very interested, and Barb is also interested.
Oh, yeah,
Barb did have to
Right.
really, filling in minutes, just taking notes, and if Barb was taking minutes before it, but Barb wanted to let me know she is very interested in the stormwater,
Yeah. And
and
this
I
is
think-
I'm
really just-
interested too.
great.
Oh, Sam, so that's like 4 people, plus whatever Allison fits into her own stuff, so that's awesome.
yeah, there's infinite numbers of things we can kind of work on. What do you want? Sorry, Dave.
I would,
Dave's really in charge of this.
the planning part of me says that this is something that we should like say, okay, we're all gonna meet on this day. And like go over the
You
whole
go
thing.
that way and you go that.
And
way.
then
Yeah.
maybe pick like 3 or 4 days in the next coming months to say, all right, we're all gonna go out on this day and just do a bunch of them together. And then once we get comfortable doing them together, then it's, you can do them on your own. But I think doing them like as a group or pair people up after we've gone over it together and just say, all right, once a month, we're gonna go out and do 5 basics. I think that's the way to try and tackle this, because there's a lot.
So there's that, and then there's another component of it, which would be, documenting impacts. And that we would want to do on a, storm by storm basis but yeah, the key is just getting sort of the base level knowledge. And we definitely want to do that as a group. So it's a little bit similar to the trees, but a little bit more complex, so.
I also have a sort of policy or program type idea or question around stormwater. I know that in some towns, there are partnerships between the town and property owners to encourage them to do things that are beneficial to the town, like putting in a rain garden, for example. And I don't know if that's something that we've thought about, where if there are properties that could benefit not just also the property owner, but mostly the town drainage issue by putting in a rain garden to divert some of the water. If there could be some sort of program where the town is willing to help a homeowner with the planning process, or cost sharing, or publicity or information about it. I was thinking about that because I see a lot of, all these properties where the water just shoots into the town drain, and then there's just so much of it during these storms. And there are a lot of other ways to deal with the water other than divert it all to a drainage system that goes to the ocean.
All right, you have a job. You're gonna come with me from now on and explain this to people that I talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have corrections on babies. Can you want to talk about babies?
Everybody wants to put things in a pipe and shoot them away from them, is what they want to do. And
Yeah.
Right.
it's a tough, it's an education thing. We need to kind of get out there and explain this to people, because they don't understand any other way. A lot of people, they really think that everything should be on a pipe, and the pipe should be a gigantic pipe, and it should take all the water and send it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in fairness, having moved here 3 years ago and dealing with the water on our own property and water diversion issues, I had no idea the concept of a rain garden. If my landscaper had talked to me about that when we were first setting up, or if the town had, materials that said, like, here's the thing, I know that you can be a friendly pollinator friendly garden, right? The town promotes that in the office or whatever. I just had no idea that there was even another way to deal with water. So we are moving off of this property and working on another, and we will put in rain gardens there, but just promoting getting the information out to people, the education piece behind it. I don't know how to make that happen, and I don't know if it's something that requires town funding to have, a program, or anyway, it's just it's something I've been thinking about, because I do think that could help if property owners were integrating that concept into their plans.
If I were to make a suggestion today, and so they bring a good point of someone that I were to make a polite recommendation to, I would recommend them check out what Rebecca's working on, not to sign her up for more work. But it's pretty amazing the level that Rebecca will spend with an individual homeowner and have this very conversation, whether it be pollination, whether it be stormwater, and what environmentally friendly and conscious ways one can landscape or in their microenvironment. That program exists, and if they do it well enough, then they actually get certified. And so it's a great way to market
Best management practices.
And I don't know if you want to talk more about it. I feel like
But getting that out into
That
the.
could not be county, the conservation district, is that a conservation district program?
It's the
Oh.
landscape, the conservation landscape certification program. And without getting too far into the weeds, it's got 5 core criteria, and I'll just state the criteria that is wildlife habitat, soil and water conservation practices, planting for ecosystem support, invasive species, and integrated pest management. And those 5 core criteria have a number that are checklist items and additional resources. It is an at-will. It's just it's self-guided program. We have set it up in partnership with the Waldo County Soil and Water Conservation District, and we offer 1 free site visit for an hour to any Knox or Lincoln County landowner at large. You can be a commercial property, you can be a school. You can be a private landowner, you can own multiple land properties, you can be an apartment dweller and have a willing, if you know, participant, because there's suggestions, the recommendations, it's non-regulatory. But I will assist you with best management practices in those 5 areas for your specific property. And if you're so inclined, you can certify your property or be an aspiring, if you have a lot of work to do, we have, you don't quite hit the criteria, or you become certified, and then there's an opportunity, Will doing, trying to showcase will be taking on the master conservationist piece with some assistance over the winter months with me, so that we can have a public place to showcase. Where lots of walkers go,
Yeah.
lots of people, so.
And like, you get a point, so Samantha, so like, and part of the criteria, within this criteria, it's a point system. And so if I remember correctly, like a rain garden would equal a point.
Yeah.
Or view, a water collection, system, rainwater, collection system might, we've got a point. And so.
Yeah.
You don't have to fit, you don't. Have to
Oh,
like,
yeah. Thank you for
Uh,
bringing that up. Well, I'm on the website now. Sign me up. This is amazing. We're doing such a great overhaul. We're overhauling this whole property right by the ocean next spring. And I would absolutely want to use this as a guide. And so I'll sign up for that offline privately. Thank you.
Yeah.
But
Like,
still, I
how-
mean, separately, I do think, from a drainage, whatever, the stormwater issue, it would probably help if we got some rainwaters onto people's properties. And I don't know if the town can promote that, since it would benefit the town as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this is part of it, but it's a much bigger conversation, but this is kind of like something that's already in place, and at least start the conversation. And but there's stormwater probably even more specific to what we could be doing.
Yeah, I also think it could be applied to public, areas in town
Yeah.
as well. Eventually, we get to that point, not just private landowners.
Oh, no, this
To work with-
this
yeah,
particular
okay.
checklist, it's meant, we're actually working on a farmland and checklist. We already have one for woodland owners. This particular, it's residential or small land use, it's completely applicable to, I'm hoping to do a project, in Rockland, that is a neighborhood project.
I love to do Lake Beach.
And we talked about, Will and I.
You have a say, okay, let's get some pollinators here, let's get, what's the storm, and actually do some. public
Lots of
things.
opportunity, but there are resources and there's information out there locally, regionally.
And the benefits are tremendous for, less water and
Yeah.
water, or your neighbors. So.
Elevating that and having that more integrated with the town planning, codes and planning office and all of that. And because there are so many projects happening in town all the time, but they oftentimes just get the very basic code enforcement officer goes out, yeah, you can have that down, you can do this. They're not pushing.
Yeah.
Like they're telling you what the bare minimum standards are, but they're not like saying a lot, and you might want to consider this and this and this,
Well,
and
I mean, let's think about why that's happening. There's not Rebecca standing there saying, hey, we have this. So maybe we should have like a flyer or some kind of a card at the office that
Yeah.
that we can make up, and that with people that are coming in to do stuff in the code office, Jeannie can hand out one and say, hey, look, here's some things that can help you, or here's a place that you can check into. I'm not trying to give you more work, but.
No, one of the reasons I'm here with the Conservation Commission is general interest, and I do
Right.
live here, of course, but like from a professional standpoint,
Yeah.
well, I know from my experience with the soil water district is that municipalities need more assistance, and in general, just at large, all knocks.
It's one of the first things we talked about.
Municipalities
Yeah.
need it, and so my work here, I hope, will help to essentially reconfigure, regel, or pilot a way to present and help convey and figure out exactly what towns need and what this town in particular, because I'm here, but how to oh, I see, this is how these systems work, and now I know that these are the physical materials, or these are the things we need to add to our website, or these are the particular organization or committees that I need to reach within these other organizations as well. So this is like, hopefully we'll be able to get it out here in town, but.
I also, Rebecca, I don't know if you guys do outreach to landscape architects in the area, but like my landscape architect, I've said a million times that I really wanted, do native plants and this and that. And he's like, yeah. And then, well, I just feel like I'm going to definitely have to stay on top of the team to make sure that things happen the way that I hope they will. But I wonder if he knew I don't know whether he knows that this exists.
Conversation.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about
Yeah, you're so right, though. There's like, I would love, we've talked so many times about, we've asked the state if they would develop a list of, landscape architects that they, approve, or like different organizations that they could have like recommended landscape architects, recommended. It's so hard, like, that's where it really has to start.
It's there, it's also, and you can speak to this as well as I'm better, in many cases, you've worked in more states, but, it's there, and it's, in my experience here in Maine and elsewhere in New England, it's that also the landscape architects are not on site for most of the time, it's the site, it's the earthwork contractors, contractor, and I am working as, as best I can with many facets. They do not, there are some that are very skilled and some that are interested, but there are many who just, there's a huge turnover in that industry. And there is not like any professional licensing. I mean, you have to be licensed to drive.
Right.
Yeah, commercial, but in terms of, there is, and unless you're doing work in the shoreline zone, you do not need to even be certified in sediment erosion control. So there's a lot of stuff that I can't, I'm a generalist and I'm clearly working in many facets. There's just only so many.
Sounds like a
places
huge
to go.
hole.
There's a
Oh,
huge
yeah.
hole in, from design to implementation, and I mean, even the people, this is a whole other conversation, but with the nursery trade, don't know the plants, the people that are working, I mean, it goes on and on, so that's a slippery slope right now, not to be dismissed, but that's almost like a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a lot of resistance, I think, still,
Yeah.
among professionals, from landscape architects who are not part of the community or even understand the plant palette, native plants. And all the way down to even gardeners and maintenance people, who are like, oh, native plants are weedy. I hear that a lot, oh, they're just weedy. And so I think there has to be a whole paradigm shift, there has to be a whole re-education, I think, around that whole industry.
Yeah, and it's
that's
happening.
huge.
It's
Yeah,
happening slowly,
yeah.
but.
And
long way to go.
people are looking for deals, and they hire the people that are the earth workers are the least expensive, and those are usually the least educated with a lot of this kind of stuff. They don't have as good of equipment. They're going in there doing things just to get it done and do it quick. And, usually you end up with problems.
Absolutely.
Is there an organization that unites contractors, or are they very just dispersed?
No, it's a pretty.
There's not
No,
no association.
Not for the common, the everyday contractor around
Just
town.
plunge in.
Like if I wanted to be a landscape contractor tomorrow, I could
Hang your
use my
shingle.
truck, hang
Yeah.
a shingle and go
Go get a backhoe
Some
and
go
shovels.
plant a burning bush on
yeah,
your neighbor's property.
Yes,
that's all. Part of the problem. It's.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to get it done as cheap as they can, so they go in and they first of all, they don't understand that there's requirements for like. Making sure that you can't block off the roads and sidewalks, and there's signage that's needed, and there's erosion control that's needed.
Or setbacks.
They don't even have the equipment. They don't even know what that is.
it's a state thing that needs to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially with the watershed problems we're having now.
Yeah, so this is a slippery slope that I think we are gonna have to temporarily put aside.
Well, Dave, put it for stormwater,
Well,
and Allison brought it up briefly, but it is, I think, interesting, and maybe it's a live example. If you really want to talk about it, at the corner of Mousecout and Bayview, it seems like there's drainage, has been historical drainage issues there. What exactly?
That's my street. They've been working on it, they're doing a great job on it, but now it's funny, the drainage ditch over there is just like all gray riprap. Because the homeowner was getting so upset that his driveway kept getting destroyed in the storms. And it was because sediment was filling up in the grate, and so they fixed it, but the way they fixed it was just to completely rip wrap that whole side of the street. It's kind of hideous, but they're doing it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is put the water in the grate.
Well, is it gonna be replaced with all
So-
stone, or will we be planting vegetation?
I mean, this is.
It looks like it's just gonna be stone.
This is probably not gonna turn into an appropriate thing. for-
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
Okay.
But
Well,
there,
it's working. Whatever they did is working.
there was water that was, soaking in there. And, for years and years, a puddle would emerge. Because that's like what you're saying with rain gardens and with, the previous homeowner was okay with having some water there. And
So this is a right of way.
really, I mean, there was really,
Anyway, we can talk.
it really should have been my opinion, but exactly the way it was, but.
I think it goes into a larger stormwater, probably conversations if that's just one specific.
Yeah, I mean, so just kind of, we talked about this, where I talked about this with the planner. We don't really have any real rules kind of regulating, impervious surfaces for private.
Right.
Residences, and that's something that we want, I think Allison was gonna talk about it when we got to the overlay zones, but that was something. That
That's
we're,
like something for the future.
it's like a pipe dream type of thing of having some kind of ordinances or some kind of regulation on how much impervious surface that you can put in without putting some kind of control or measure in place to offset that. But there's nothing on the books right now for private landowners or homeowners to do that. And then from my standpoint, a lot of homeowners don't want that. They want to put it in a pipe and they want to transport it away from their property. And, they come up with all kinds of reasons why you have to do it.
So if you wanted to asphalt your entire lot,
You can do it.
you could asphalt your entire lot.
There's nothing stopping you right now, and that's a problem. Because
It's interesting because the one property on by Lake Beach, part of the driveway is grass that they drive on. So I just thought that was because they were restricted. But they just did that probably because of drainage and then.
yeah, they wanted a natural looking driveway. There's this grid work you could put under the
Right,
the gravelly loam mixture, and then you plant grass on top, and you can drive on it. And as long as you don't drive on it all the time, it'll have grass on it.
Right.
Lots of water for it.
that's exactly what we probably did.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I might, if I could just say one piece here. And one of the things that the town has in place to sort of keep people's buildings from getting out of control is there's a ordinance that says you have to get a building permit if you're doing more than $2,000 work on your building. It's not inconceivable to think that something similar, a conservation permit could be required for doing more than, $2,000 worth of work on your property, so to speak, that would invoke something, and at least someone taking a look at it going, hey, that's not such a great idea. Why don't you take advantage of this free resource? Get a 1-hour visit from Knox County Soil and Water Conservation, talk about things. This is the potential impact this might have. Obviously, it would be great, Dave, as you say, to have, impervious surface requirements and things like that. I actually think we do have some of that in place, just based on conversations with a homeowner that I know who said, the town said, yeah, you can't put a driveway because you're going to create too much impervious surface on Mechanic Street, but maybe not. But anyway, I think we need to be forward looking at what are mechanisms that the town could put in place that would force people to some extent, keep in mind some of these things that we think are priorities if the townspeople agree and put an ordinance in place or what have you.
I love that idea, Brian.
Yeah.
Awesome, so we've touched upon the Natural Resource Protection Act with the overlay zones with shoreline zoning, I mentioned, previously that I've downloaded Kennebunk and York City, town shoreline zoning ordinance maps and, their language to review for, future conversation as when we're going to get river watershed, its tributaries, et cetera. This project evolves and the potential for considering these overlay with the stormwater management mapping project, all of that will kind of yield hot spots that are probably known and maybe some that are unknown. So that's more of just an awareness and an acknowledgement that I'm starting to do a little bit of the homework and some of the background digging for that we'll put that again on the agenda. Since we're at like 1 minute to close, if we're being courteous of the time to all. So if I can leave it there, unless anybody needs anything burning, I'd like to just jump to acknowledge the Maine Association of Conservation Commissions meeting is coming up. It's at their annual meeting. It's on Saturday, October 22nd. Barb and Pamela have both said that they're available to attend, and I want to say that I'm appreciative of that, because I think it's really important that we get representation there, and then we really hear what's happening at the state level and what our resources are that are available to us. So thank you for that. I really look forward to the report back in November, or actually late October. Ooh, convenient. But that also brought up the fact that they are a membership organization. So I wanted to just state, that it's $150 to join based on our town size. They do it by population base. So maybe
I'll just check on whether that needs to get on an agenda or something, or whether I think that we may already have money in the budget for like membership fees and associations and things like that, so that might not need anything, but I will get back to you on. I don't anticipate any trouble with joining that. Does the conference itself have,
there was no fee.
okay, because that is the kind of thing, like if there were a fee, it would be reasonable to, have the town pay for that for committee members or. And if there are other conferences that you see places or training programs,
There's a
within
within
reason.
stormwater management conference, and it's annual stormwater management conference. I think that's something that at least one of us should attend. Oh, what if somebody's like, I'm gonna go.
yeah, we can all go.
Yeah, so
I think that kind of stuff is really good for everyone to. Get more, so yeah, definitely pass that kind of stuff along, and if it needs funds, there is some money available for that kind of thing, like there's like a training budget or something like that, so.
and then just lastly, but not least, and without a lot of time available, I based on my own schedule as well, being sort of mindful of the long drive I have ahead of me, is I think I just really ask that everybody sort of look ahead based on the projects that are going on and the different things that we've talked about at the meeting, kind of think about the priorities, think about what we think we actually have capacity, time, money, energy, additional available resources, and how we can put an action plan together for 2023, and so that we can have some tangible written goals and we can check in on them. I mean, I think obviously keeping in touch and in tune with other, projects and facets of what's going on and how we can advise is great, but there are certainly projects that we talked about, maybe this, collaboration with Rockport on additional tree planting or things like that. What we want to have is, first, second, third, and other projects. And then this winter, Louisa, my colleague, and I will be doing an IMAP and basis training. So I just wanted to, we didn't really talk about it much. It's an online tool that is used both in the United States and in Canada. And it maps not only terrestrial invasive plant species, but it does aquatic species. It does, you can map like the hemlock woolly adelgid, any number of invasive species at large, and it's all put into one, database, and you can look to see where certain stations are. You can add to the pool of knowledge, and so I think it's something that as we evolve with the Conservation Commission, and it's can be a part of the work that we do. When Will's all done mapping all the stormwater management, he can jump into that.
To me,
Yeah.
what's there for the trees to see, especially when we start to understand. Okay, something happens to the ash trees, but where are the ash trees? And we might use the layer of the tree
Well,
ash.
and if you're out doing the trees and you happen to just see a hemlock,
Right.
there that does have the adelgid, and the app is sitting right next to the other app that you're using on your phone, it's one of those quick, like, oh, let's just populate that. It literally takes 30 more seconds in most
Right.
cases, so it's just another opportunity to get the information together, so we're doing the best we can. So, is there anything else?
I want to give this to someone if there's any place to give it. Veronica gave me a main flood resilience checklist. And it's not that new, but
So we've done a staff training with that, and,
you want another copy?
I don't actually need a copy of that, but we have it in an Excel document, but at some point. That's a good reminder, because Dave was part of that too. You're really stone faced right
No,
now.
I
but,
just, it's.
it
something-
exists,
yeah.
And we've gone through a lot of it with town staff, and there was supposed to be another round of it, but it does have some really good
What happened?
stuff, right? Yeah, what did happen with that? I have the whole document on my computer of how we started with that, but maybe I can ask if it was supposed to be reviewed by other groups, possibly.
Parker,
Yeah, Parker did ask me if I could help, whether you sent me an email a while back saying, could you help like catalyze finishing this or something like that?
Right.
So, yes, that's a good future agenda item. But we have done, Parker gave I really want Parker to come to the select board meeting for the town staff and like rogue select board member training that they did. He gave an overview of historical flooding, gave a really good presentation as preparation for having everybody fill out this checklist document.
what did we have to do that for? What was the reason for
It was a main climate resiliency grants. We didn't have to, we agreed to.
So, I want to officially close the meeting at 2:06 and say that the next meeting is set for October 26th, which is the fourth Wednesday from 12 to 2. And it will be back, as we assume, in the French conference room unless we hear otherwise, and that will be posted on the website and sent out by email as well. So thank you, everybody, for working through the hiccups, the tech stuff, the room switch, I didn't say select board, I said select people. I said, we'll get there.
That's very nice.
So, thank you. We'll see you next month.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.